Hey guys, this is Pat from JRB's Comics. Welcome to my Power Level Wiki Preview. Actually, this is not a preview since the wiki has already been published on JRB's Comics. It's more of a wiki explaining, but in any case, let's get into it. So it's about a feat by Lex Luthor in Action Comics Annual 11. So that was during the Son of Superman story arc. Let me get you the description of the feat and the story. In Action Comics Annual 11, titled Last Son, Lex Luthor gets an intelligence feat. Superman has recruited the Superman Revenge Squad against generals other than times and prisoners. During the meeting, Lex Luthor was the invented the radiation rifles. Since studied the radiation rifles fire lasers that means free Superman radiation. So the question is, how much intelligence does it take for Lex Luthor to invent the radiation rifles? So initially, my initial approach was to calculate Superman's reliability in dose and then convert in bytes per second. But I realized that we're not talking just about energy conversion, we're talking about essentially how many thoughts it would take for Lex Luthor to understand how green kryptonite works. Because we don't really have a way of calculating how much energy or how much time it would take him to actually invent the kryptonite the radiation rifle. So we are left with trying to understand at least how much intelligence it takes to understand how kryptonite works. So that was my approach for this wiki. For the most part, it makes very much a lot of sense, and you will see that from the start we couldn't actually use the information that was given. We had to essentially, on a hypothetical situation, and find a way to kind of get a comparison to see, kind of get a sense of how much intelligence you would take for this to invent the radiation. So let's get into it. This is the scan from Action Comics Annual 11. And let's get down. Here is the calculations, physical calculations. So I said Lex Luthor invented radiation rifles that fire artificial green kryptonite lasers. They are capable of piercing a kryptonian skin. We use Superman's durability to estimate Lex Luthor's intelligence. Now, Superman's durability. Superman and Packer visit the Kepler supernova in a Sunstone spaceship. Superman's brother hears the distress signal. In fact, he's coming in the neighborhood solar system about a sun eater. Then Superman meets an alien spaceship with an entropy bomb destroying the sun. So it was actually about a sun eater and about an entropy bomb. And when the bomb went off, it destroyed the sun eater, but the radiation was so powerful that it exploded with about the power of 50 supernovas. And Superman briefly was able to withstand the thermal radiation from the blast. So I said, since the craft was damaged, Superman carried the entropy bomb into the sun eater. Incredibly, Superman withstood red sun radiation dated at the bomb. However, the explosion was the size of 50 supernovas at light speed. So that's what happened. This is a very powerful feat actually. It's a very good way to scale Superman's durability. So actually, if you calculate it, it's at least galaxy level the level of durability. Let me go into the calculation for it. And then first, green kryptonite is a radioactive mineral of Superman's hormone. It is deadly to kryptonite and interferes with the ability to absorb and process the sunlight. National Comics 816 God has come to kill Superman. If the battle, Superman is impaired by God's kryptonite-laced power stealing. So it's about, I would say, 5 centimeters by 5 centimeters. We use these pieces to calculate Superman's relativity. So, in the first issue, Superman was weakened by red solar radiation. Nevertheless, the man still withstood the explosion of the sun either. As a matter of fact, it was equal to 50 supernovas. In which Superman deceased, if we estimate the energy released by supernova is roughly 1.8 times 10 to the 47 joules. The next estimate Superman's durability. So to estimate his durability, multiply 1.6 times 10 to the 45 joules times 50 supernovas, and you get 6.2 times 10 to the 46 joules. Which is it's not that bad, but it's really high. It really shows how powerful Superman is, how tough he is. He really is invulnerable, no matter how you slice, how you say it. In reality, Kryptonite interferes with the ability of the Kryptonite cell to absorb your sunlight. So this is where it gets pretty interesting, because I actually looked up into some research about animals that are supposed to be photosynthetic. So animals that have the pigment called chlorophyll in the I guess some of them have them in their mitochondria. They actually still chloroplast from algae or plants when they feed on them, and they use the chloroplast or the chlorophyll or chloroplast to photosynthesize. Now, among them, there is one in particular that really piqued my interest. It was the Oriental hornet. And essentially, is able to absorb light for photosynthesis, but also for it's able to absorb light in order to produce electrical power. So, in an important study, they found it is hypothesized that the Oriental hornet uses a molecule called xanthophyllin in order to produce electrical power. And what is interesting is that the xanthophyllin is actually supposed to help actually absorb mostly violet light to produce electrical power at 280 nanometers. So that's kind of where I started at, is would Superman be able to absorb light in his mitochondria using a similar process? But actually, instead of absorbing violet light, it would absorb yellow light. So we know Superman is an alien, so it would have to be through a process of parallel evolution, where two distinct species, two distinct lineages actually evolved separately to have the same or the similar adaptation. So that would be parallel evolution. So we actually hypothesized that Superman uses a modified xanthophyllin in order to absorb yellow sunlight. But since data points were modeled to absorb violet light, let's calculate how much energy a Kryptonian body part of violet light will absorb. So let's calculate the energy of a violet photon. If you remember, Einstein's equation is equal to mc squared, where m is the mass of a photon and c is actually the speed of light. But here we're using a modified form, where we're using Planck's constant multiplied by the frequency, which is supposed to be mu. So Planck's constant is 6.63 times 10 to the 34 joules per second. And then mu is supposed to be equal to the speed of light divided by the wavelength. So that's the frequency. 3 times 10 to the 8 meters per second divided by 3.867 to the 11 meter. That's the frequency of violet light. And you get 1.66 times 10 to the 15 joules. Now, if you want to find out the energy Superman cells from the violet photon, we don't actually know how many violet photons we'll be able to absorb. But since we are hypothesizing that Superman is using the modifiers and xanthophyllin in order not to absorb yellow sunlight, and then how much violet light the Kryptonian body will absorb, we have to actually calculate how much violet light there would be in Superman cells. Now, we don't actually know how many cells there are in Superman's body, but we can make an approximation from what we know. Superman is more or less a human, because
it has mostly human attributes. I think they call the Kryptonians Homo Kryptonius or something like that. But so Homo is the human genus, and then sapiens is the species. So that would be human being. But for all intents and purposes, you can assume that since he's more or less human, he has at least 3,079 cells in his body per milliliter. Sorry, not yes per milliliter. And then we multiply 1.66 times 10 to the negative 16 joules times 10 to the minus 3 molar, because in the paper that we found, they actually were able to calculate the concentration of xanthopterin in the cell, which was about 1 millimolar. So that's why I had 10,000 to the 3 molar. And then you multiply by 10 to the negative 4 liters, which is actually the volume that they use for the new xanthopterin solution. And then you multiply by Avogadro's number 6.06 to the third molecule. And of course, we know that each molecule is 1 mole. And then one molecule of xanthopterin weighs 179.14 grams. And then of course you multiply by the number of cells and also by the cell density, which is supposed to be 107 million liters per 107,000 grams. Oh, sorry, 107,000 grams per 107 million liters. So you get 5.39 times 10 to 19 joules. So that's how much energy from Superman cells would absorb from one violet photon. Since xanthopterin, the oriental hornet absorbed violet in 1 minute interval, you calculate absorption of Superman cells in 1 minute. So we're talking about power now. So the power of Superman cells, we will just have to divide what we obtain here by 60 seconds. We get 8.99 times 10 to the 17 watts. Now, this actually does not really translate well into intelligence, because we'd have to know how much data Superman actually, how much data, and you will actually take to study the process of photosynthesis in Superman cells. However, we do know from NASA that how much data it would take to map plant photosynthesis on Earth. So we go to NASA Go that has a data rate of 50,000 bytes per second. In NASA, we found that you can average 50 kilometers squared in 10 days. NASA Go does storage capacity. So you multiply 50,000 bytes per second times 10 days, and then times the surface area of the Earth in kilometers. So that's in kilometers. Sorry, actually not the surface area. Actually, divide the surface area of the Earth divided by 50 kilometers squared, and you get this proportion. Because actually, since we know that this, we could actually just multiply 50 by this proportion, it will give you the same number. So you divide 50 divided by this, you divide the surface area of the Earth by 50 kilometers squared to get this proportion. So you multiply it by 10 days, and then you divide by 1 hour, then you get it in seconds. So you get 4.41 times 10 to the 17 bytes. Now the interesting thing is that NASA's Goddard spacecraft actually has 32 terabytes of data storage overall. So that's actually a little bit more than its data storage. So I'm thinking that it's probably around less than that when they did the calculation for the photosynthesis, because actually they were obtaining averages after 10 days. but I couldn't get a hold of the data, so I had to make my own calculations. In any case, we will use this value for now. We're just trying to get an estimate to find out how much processing speed actually that would actually have to do to understand the process of photosynthesis either in animals or in Kryptonians. So Luthor's processing speed 4.4 times 0.1 to 17 bytes divided by 12 hours. Since it takes about 12 hours for the process of photosynthesis to take place on Earth, since at night it's mostly cellular respiration for plants, and then you get it in seconds, you divide also by 3600 seconds. So you get 1.01 times 10 to 13 bytes per second. So that's how long it would take for at least Luthor to understand photosynthesis on Earth. Now, we don't really know the process by which xanthopterin in the animal that we talked about. I think the Oriental hornet converts light energy into electricity. I don't think we know so far the chemical reactions involved. It's mostly unclear. This is mostly hypothesis at the moment. Actually, most of it for xanthopterin, most of its function is understood to be other types of functions in the cell. This function of light conversion to electricity is actually just a hypothesis. And there doesn't seem to be much agreement about it so far. So for the most part, we are just talking about photosynthesis in plants. In animals, it's just mostly hypothesis. In other animals, actually, some of them are found to contain chloroplasts, to actually eat chloroplasts in order to use the chloroplast to absorb light energy to produce light energy to convert into food or energy for their cellular needs. But so it would take at least 4.41 times 10 to the 17, 1.01 times 10 to the 17 bytes per second for Luthor to understand photosynthesis in plants. So it's probably much higher to understand photosynthesis in animals, and then of course to understand photosynthesis, which is very hypothetical in Kryptonians, to understand photosynthesis in Kryptonians. But actually, you can look for my post on how Superman's powers work on March the 2nd, where I actually talked a little bit about the discovery of this molecule and other theories that are being proposed by other writers, especially John Byrne, which I think might make sense. I think if you agree that Superman might use a modified form of xanthopterin to produce electricity, then his powers are most likely some form of telekinesis. So that's my main argument to explain Superman's powers in my article on March 2nd. So be on the lookout for that. Let me go to the feed rating now. So I said in the issue, Lex Luthor invented the radiation rifle. Dangerously, they can pierce Kryptonian skin. In fact, they fire an artificial green kryptonite laser. Whenever green kryptonite interferes with Kryptonian's ability to absorb light. In Oriental hornets, a molecule called xanthopterin is thought to absorb 5.39 times 10 to 19 joules of energy to produce electrical power. This energy is absorbed by electric of 386 nanometers. Directly in parallel evolution, Kryptonians possess a homogeneous absorption of yellow light. Importantly, Luthor discovered the process by which Superman absorbs yellow solar radiation, similar to photosynthesis in mammals. So this is probably the most important thing that I think Luthor made, the discovery that he made in order to invent the radiation rifles. He discovered the reactions by which Superman absorbs yellow solar radiation, similar to photosynthesis in mammals or even plants. In addition, Luthor generated 1.01 times 10 to the 13 bytes per second of processing speed. We should say actually at least generate at least 1.01 times 10 to the 13 bytes per second of processing speed. So my feat rating, intelligence feat rating was inventor. It's probably much higher, but based on what we know in current sciences, is at least this amount of processing speed. That's it for our video today, guys. I hope you enjoy our content. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Rock your fandom.